What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mind Hiking Podcast. I'm your host, Brody Frye, and today's episode, we're going to try to help you through some challenging situations. If you're going through hardship or if you're in pain and struggling, hopefully this episode lends a helping hand. And if you know somebody that needs a helping hand or is going through a hardship or a struggle, then share this episode with them. It'll really help the podcast grow, and I really want this episode to reach the people that need to hear it. With all my episodes, I want the people that need to hear them for it to reach them. So the best way for that to happen is for you guys to share them. So I really appreciate all your support. Hopefully this message really helps you if you need it. And without further ado, stay tuned. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Brody Frye, and here we dive deep into difficult questions. We'll map out thoughts, theories, and crazy ideas for the love of knowledge and growth. So, how do we answer some of the mind's toughest questions? This is the Mind Hiking Podcast. Dear Diary. Oh shit, wrong file. Welcome back, guys. I'm Brody Frye. This is the Mind Hiking Podcast, and today I want to discuss just the difficulties of life and getting through it and how to do so. Just being humans, all of us struggle, all of us go through hardship, whatever it is, the challenges of daily life, the challenges of whatever the situation is that you're in. How do we get through these struggles? Really, the biggest thing to keep in mind for me that really helps me out is just taking it day by day, and the fact that whatever it is you're going through right now, it will pass, and time is on our side. It's our friend. Even if you sit in it long enough, most of the time, if you're struggling and you're going through something difficult, just a little bit of time will make it pass. A lot of times, our problems and our struggles are a feeling. A lot of times, it's how we're feeling. Sometimes we spiral ourselves into a depression, into anxiety even. And most of the time, the reason we label it a problem is because of our emotions. These things that we struggle so much with, or these hardships, a lot of times are emotionally charged, and most of the time, it's just a matter of time before they pass. And I can't speak for your specific situation, but with my experience, most of the time, the problems that I face, the problems that I think are a huge mountain to climb, a huge wall in the way of whatever I want to do, any of these struggles that I have in my life from personal experience, time has been my friend, and time has healed, time has just washed over whatever issues it was, which typically was that emotional charge. It's tough to do, and it's a lot easier said than done. And again, I'm not speaking for you, I'm speaking from my personal experience, and hopefully you can understand what I'm trying to get across. It is tough, especially when you're feeling real pain, when you're sitting in a really tough spot, when you're actually going through something difficult and challenging. It's easy for me to sit here and say this to you, but the pain you're feeling is real, and I'm acknowledging that. I just hope that this helps. I hope this kind of shows you that no matter what you're going through, everything will be okay. You'll get past this, and time will heal, and the emotions you're feeling aren't forever. They're not everlasting, and it'll change, and the only constant in life is change, and you never know. I mean, it could be minutes from now, it could be days from now, it could be months from now, but it's always a wave, and there could be little waves within those bigger waves. Like, I don't know if you are into any sort of financials or like investments or stock trading or anything like that, but if you look at charts of stocks, you can see, like, if you're zoomed out a year or more on the chart, you can see like the ups and downs, but then you zoom into like a breakdown of like the past month, and then you can do like the past week, and you can do the past day, and it's just like, seems like it just, you zoom in more and there's just more peaks and valleys in each of these as you zoom up. So there's like little peaks and valleys within each major peak and valley. So you can be in a low and still have highs and lows in that low, and you can be way up in a high and you can have highs and lows within that. So, but either way, it's always changing and everything's always moving up and down. So anything can change at any time. One thing I like to, or at least when I was growing up, I always thought about and would talk about was, so many people can do so many things. Like, I pretty much like to say or think that you can pretty much train anybody to do anything, like anything that anybody else is already doing. So, like, for somebody to say that, like, whatever it is that you do makes you irreplaceable, that's probably not true. You could probably train somebody to do it just the way that you do it. And the part that makes things, there's more to it that makes you irreplaceable. It's not the job itself, because I feel like that's tossed around too much. It's like, nobody can do this job, or nobody can do this. Like, I'm irreplaceable. They can't get rid of this place, would fall apart without me, kind of thing. And that's not necessarily true. They can, if you were trained to do that position, they could train anybody to do that position. But when I grew up as a farmer, I saw people in and out of that farm all the time, and it wasn't that people couldn't do it. That wasn't the problem. And this is a pattern that I saw at a very young age. I realized that you could train anybody to do anything, and that was fine. But I was there my entire life until the farm went out of business, and then I was obviously forced to move on. But I stayed till the end, and what I saw from that loyalty, from that persistence, was this cycle of people, a revolving door in and out of people. And what that taught me was, it's not the job itself. Anybody can go in there and do it for a day. Anybody can do the task that you're doing. The thing that makes you irreplaceable, typically, the thing that made me irreplaceable in the farm, because there was a time where I tried to leave, and they they were not having that. So I did end up staying. It was a struggle and it was hard, but the thing that made me irreplaceable was the day in and day out, every single day, the stamina that I could do that. And not only do that, but if you know me, or if you've listened to other episodes, you know I grew up on this farm, and I lived where I worked, and there was no sick days, there was no sleeping in there, because I lived where I worked. And obviously so did my father, and I grew up watching him when he was sick, have to run outside the barn and throw up around the corner in the grass and then walk right back in and go back to work. And I followed right in those footsteps because I had no choice either. And the animals needed to be taken care of. They didn't care if you were sick and puking. They didn't care if it was Christmas morning and you wanted to open presents. They didn't care if it was in the middle of the night when there's an emergency. It didn't matter. The animals needed to be taken care of no matter what. And they didn't care about however you were feeling or the emotions of how you were feeling, or if you got enough sleep last night, or if you're just tired and you want to sleep in just another 10, 15 minutes. No, you couldn't do that. And it's not that you couldn't do that because of job security or safety. You couldn't do that for the life of the animals on the farm. So there was a lot of weight and a lot of responsibilities on my shoulders growing up. You were not only a farmer, but you were also a dentist. You were a doctor. You were a chef. We made the food. We gave them medicine, vitamins, vaccines. We cleaned their teeth. We didn't call anybody. We didn't have vets to come out and do everything. We did everything ourselves. And it was a lot of responsibility and a lot of work and a lot of emergencies that couldn't wait. And we had to do that. And living on the property, it forced me to be that person. And we had a lot of employees that worked very hard. But again, like they would have days off and stuff. But I was always the one 24/7 on call. And I grew up like that. I remember just like growing up, like friends having parties, and our parties were like dirt bike related. Like we'd go over and party and have like a party for a supercross race. Like we'd go have a supercross party and watch the race and drink Mountain Dews and stuff like that. Those were our parties. Like we weren't out drinking alcohol and stuff. I never had my first sip of alcohol until I was 21. I was pretty hardworking, determined, driven, and dedicated, and I just didn't see any time for messing around like that and steering my life off course. But we'd have these parties, and I would have to leave midway through to go make sure that the animals were fed, the animals were taken care of, and then I could come back. I would, and I knew the times that needed to be done. I managed the whole farm, and then it was just the animals were the priority, and no matter what. So I couldn't stay the night at other people's houses, and if I did, I had to get up really early to make sure I was back at the farm, and most of the time it wasn't worth the risk having to stay at somebody else's place. So I would just make sure I was home every night, and then I could just be at the farm there. But no sick days, no holidays, no birthdays off, nothing like that. And so that's where I'm getting at. It wasn't that you couldn't do the job. Anybody could do the job, but it's the endurance. It's the day in and day out, every single day. And if I looked at the big picture and knew I was going to be there that long doing everything that I did, I would have gone insane and I wouldn't have been able to do it. And who knows, maybe if you've listened to this podcast enough, maybe I have gone insane. No, who knows? But it's just, I don't know that I would have been able to get through it fully if I actually looked at the big picture and saw how much time and what I had to do there. I was just focusing on the here and now. I knew what, like I had goals and I knew where I was going, but I just, in life at that time, it was what I was doing, the tasks that needed to be done. I chunked it. I chunked everything I needed to do into manageable bites. It's like that saying of how do you eat an elephant? And it's a stupid saying, but this saying of how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. But it's a real thing. It's true. I chunked it into bite-sized pieces. My day. If I looked at everything I had to do in that day, it would have been so overwhelming. So it forced me to learn to manage tasks and time, because I knew there was plenty of times where I learned that lesson the hard way, and I was working well into the night, and I started well before the sun came up. And that sucked. So I learned to manage my time and learn how to manage tasks efficiently, so that way everything lined up properly and I could get out of there smooth. I was forced to look for efficient, because a lot of the days were relatively repeatable. Every day was a new day and there was a new challenge every day, but for the most part, it was a lot of repeat things, a lot of maintenance that needed to be done, a lot of like cage cleaning, and a lot of, obviously we had to feed the animals, and it's just like a lot of repetitive farm work. But every day was a new day, and there's new challenges for every day. So it did, with that mild repetition there, it forced me to be able to look at it and be like, how do I refine this? How do I make this operate better and smoother? So that's how I was able to get through it all. It was chunking and looking at the individual tasks, like I know I needed to do this, so let's get this done and check it off the list kind of thing. Now that's how I, like, even when I go through difficult times now and in the future, it's chunking it, like what needs to be done now. And sometimes there isn't. Sometimes, like when you lose an animal, there isn't any task that you can do. Sometimes you can try, and there's been times where I'm certain an animal is dead, but many times I've been able to bring them back. And close friends know a lot of stories like that. But sometimes there's nothing you can do. And it is what it is. And the only task that needs to be completed at that point is clean up and let time pass. And it doesn't make it any easier. It's really hard. But that's how you get through it, is chunking it and knowing that this will pass too. Day by day. Just take it day by day. Don't even focus. When you're going through something hard, don't even focus on the big picture. Just focus on getting through your day, getting through the task. If the day is too big, the day is too challenging, the day is too much to take on, chunk it up. Focus on the task. Sometimes even that's too big. Sometimes you see the task and it's too overwhelming. So you can break that up even smaller. Break it into a manageable piece, something that you can handle. Even if it's as small as a motion. The next movement I need to make is do this. Move my arm here to do this. That's manageable. You can do that. Break everything up into things that you know you can do. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. This is the next step. Yeah, I can do that. Do a bunch of things that you know you can do. And the next thing you know, the day's gone by and you got through it. And that's how it is with your problems and your struggles. Just make them manageable, because you'll overwhelm yourself if you get stuck in the whole big picture. I know the farm story isn't going to be fully relatable to many people, but I hope it was enough of a story that you guys could understand where I'm coming from and why I feel this way, why I'm giving this advice and offering this to you, whether you take it or not. I'm just looking to help. I know a lot of people that are going through a lot of difficult things, and the world is a challenging place to live in, and sometimes it seems like it never ends, and it's always something. There's always some sort of challenge, some sort of lesson, some sort of struggle happening in your life, and if there's not, it's happening to somebody around you. So even if this episode doesn't directly affect or directly apply to you, which would be a good thing in this case, maybe it speaks to somebody else and you can pass on the message. I try to take as much as I can from my experiences and just learn lessons from them that I can apply in the future, and try to refine my life. I don't want to make the same mistakes over and over again. I don't want to repeat mistakes. It hurts enough the first time. When you go through struggles, you don't want to go through it again. So I try to learn, refine, and manage problems and struggles and key points that I need to take, so that way my life is more enjoyable and more efficient in the struggles and enjoyable all around. But obviously there's going to be times where there's always going to be new problems. There's going to be new struggles that you haven't learned yet through your whole life. So it's just constant learning lessons. So those on top of lessons that you refuse to learn from. And maybe it's not worth learning from. Maybe there's nothing to learn. Maybe it's just the end is so horrible and so much suffering and pain, but the process is just too enjoyable not to do it again. Maybe the ending just rips your heart out and you're devastated for days, weeks, months, years, maybe forever. Maybe the rest of your life you're devastated with a decision that you made, but you keep repeating it because in that moment, it makes it all worth it. I talk about in a previous episode about our capacity for love and how infinite it is. Where making a decision like this doesn't fill the void. The example I'm thinking of while explaining this is a dog. But for the listeners, if you want to apply any pet, it's all the same. Something you love. For me, it's any of my pets, but my dogs. And you know they don't live long. You know they pass away, but you get them anyways. And when they pass away, you say, you'll never do that again. You'll never get another dog again. That was too gut-wrenching and too much pain. But then you fall in love with a sweet little puppy again. And it's just the good times are too good to cut that out of your life. The enjoyable moments, the good times are just too good. That fruit is too sweet to not do it over and over again. If you have a dog or if you've had a dog, you know what I'm talking about. And you do it again. And you wouldn't take that away. if the way to take away that pain was to never have had that experience in the first place, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't take that away. I wouldn't. I've seen too much death in my life. In all sorts of ways, but animals especially, and I still got dogs. I love them, but the good times are just too good, and I just love having my furry buddies. When you lose them, when you lose something, when you go through this kind of pain, and again, this kind of pain isn't the whole episode. This is just an example of a sort of pain that isn't easy to get through, that doesn't have a task that you can accomplish. But when you go through that kind of pain, that void in your heart, that hole, will never be filled. You can't replace something like that. Or even if you're talking about a loved one, a human being. That hole, that void will never be filled. But our capacity for love is infinite. And that's why we continue to get pets. That's why we fall in love with, again, it's just different. The key is just to take it day by day. Breathe, if that's what it takes, because that's a task you can manage. Inhale, and then exhale. If it's unbearable, don't even focus on the full breath. Just focus on sucking air into your lungs. You do that enough times and you'll get through the day. We can all do it. We can all make it through. This life is very challenging, but there's so many good ups to life as well. This is just an offering for help for those downs, for those dips. Wherever you're at on the spectrum, if you're on a major dip, if you're on a little dip inside of a major dip, like as low as you can go, I hope this helps you get through that. There's nothing I can say or do that'll solve a problem for you, but I hope this helps you work your way through it or get through it. And even if you're having a great time, life's going amazing, and you just ran into a little issue that really upset you, I hope this gets you through it and helps you out too. Wherever you're at in life, I hope this helps. Wherever you're at in the world, I hope this message reaches you. And if you know somebody that needs to hear something like this, share it. It really means a lot to me knowing that this got out to the people that needed it. And it feels so good knowing that you guys are enjoying what I'm doing here and helping this podcast grow and sharing it as well. So I really put a lot of time and thought and effort and energy into this podcast and the messages behind it. It's heart and soul. So hope you guys can feel that and see that. So please keep supporting me like you guys are. I'm so grateful for it. You guys rock. I love you guys. You guys are amazing. Hopefully this helps you out. And like I said, share it to anybody in need. So thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed. And stay tuned for next week. Peace.